So there's a moment in our life where grace has to stop being just a nice, comforting someone, but actually becomes our lifeline. So picture this. You've just pulled in your driveway after a long day. You put the car in a park, turn off the engine, but you don't get out. You just sit there in the quiet, staring in the steering wheel. You're completely drained, and in that quiet moment, the truth hits you. I can't keep living like this. I can't keep fighting myself. I cannot keep pretending I'm holding it all together when I'm not. I can't keep carrying this alone. That driveway moment, that is the exact moment grace becomes more than just a religious word. It becomes your oxygen. It becomes a system reset. It becomes home. Now, I'm Godwin and welcome back to JengaPod, to our series Walk in Grace finale. For the last two episodes, we have talked about stepping out of the courtroom in your mind and throwing away the mental scoreboard. Today, we are bringing it down to the ground floor. We're talking about how to choose grace daily, not as a Sunday message, not as a high-level philosophical idea, but as a practical, everyday way of living, breathing, and seeing ourselves. Now, having said so, in the next couple of minutes, we're going to take grace out of the clouds and put it directly into your daily routine. We will explore the fundamental shift from living toward grace to living from grace. Now, I'm going to break down how to fundamentally rewire the way you speak to yourself, how that internal shifts spills over into your relationships, and I'll give you a simple 4-step daily rhythm you can use the exact moment you feel yourself spiraling into self-criticism. Now, because grace isn't just a one-time event, grace is a daily posture. So, let's begin. Principle 1, the prerequisite, receiving grace. Before you can live from grace, you have to actually receive it. And receiving grace begins with one massive reality-altering truth. God is not asking you to come perfect. He is only asking you to come honest. Look at the invitation of Jesus. He says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I'll give you rest." Notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say, "Come to me when you fix your habits." It doesn't say, "Come to me when you finally get your career on track." It doesn't say, "Come to me when you stop struggling with that same mistake you have been making for 5 years." It just says, "Come." So grace is not a VIP room for people who have their act together. It's the emergence room for the broken. It meets you exactly where you are, in your weaknesses, in your confusion, in your mercy, unfiltered humanity. So, come to grace or walk in grace, in spite and despite your flaws. Now, principle 2, practicing grace toward yourself. Now, the internal reset. So, how do you actually operationalize this? How do you treat yourself with grace on a random Tuesday afternoon when you have just messed up a project or snapped at someone you love? First, you have to change the way you speak to yourself. Your inner voice is the loudest voice in your entire life. In our careers, we look for tools and systems that act as a force multipliers to make us more efficient and productive. We often trick ourselves into believing that being incredibly hard on ourselves is a psychological force multiplier, that if we just criticize ourselves enough, we'll perform better. But it's the exact opposite. Constant self-criticism is a glitch. It crashes your internal system. Grace is the true force multiplier. It clears the cache. It actually frees up the mental bandwidth you need to grow. So you have to allow room for mistakes. Perfection is not the goal. Growth is. Grace gives you the permission to be human, to stumble, to learn, to get back up without declaring yourself a total failure. You shift your focus from what is missing to what is growing. Hey, a quick gentle reminder. If this episode is speaking to you, pause for a second and hit the like or follow button. Growing a space for intentional living happens one person at a time, and your support helps us to build just that. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music, make sure to follow so you never miss an episode. Awesome. Let's keep going. Principle 3. Now, extending grace to others, the spillover effect. So here's the hard truth about human nature. You cannot give what you do not have. If your internal system is running on a harsh, unforgiving code, you're going to project that exact same code onto your friends, your family, and your coworkers. But once you let grace clears out your own inner critic, it naturally flows outward. You start to forgive quickly, not because people always deserve it, but because you realize how freeing it is to stop keeping score. You start leading with compassion. When someone drops the ball, you don't see them as a problem to fix or a metric that failed. You see them through God's eyes as a human being who is trying. When you do this, you build a culture of grace in your home and your workplace. A culture where people feel safe to be human, where mistakes are not fatal, where love isn't something you have to earn every single day. Now, principle 4, living from grace, not toward it. This is the paradigm shift that changes absolutely everything. Most of us live our lives on a treadmill running toward grace. We think if we just work a little harder, perform a little better, and act a little holier, we will finally arrive at a place where we are acceptable. So stop running. You don't live to be loved. You live because you are loved. When you realize your identity is already secure, rest becomes a lifestyle. You can finally slow down. You can stop striving, because while fear and pressure might temporarily modify your behavior, only love can permanently transform your heart. Grace changes you from the inside out, not by the pressure of performance, but by the presence of peace. Now, having said so, let's look at the practical application, the 4-step daily rhythm, things that you can do quickly to embrace grace. So choosing grace daily is simple, but it is not always easy. It requires overriding years of bad mental programming. So I want to give you a highly practical 4-step daily rhythm. The next time you make a mistake and you feel that wave of shame and self-hatred coming on, run this sequence. Number 1, pause. Literally stop what you're doing. Notice that your inner critic has taken the mic. Recognize the harshness. Number 2, breathe. Take one deep breath to interrupt the anxiety spiral. Break the physical tension in your body. Number 3, receive. Speak this truth over yourself. I am loved. I am forgiven. I am enough exactly as I am in this moment. Number 4, respond. Now, from that place of peace, choose your next action. Choose the gracious thought. Choose the gracious perspective. So having said so, grace is not warm, fuzzy feeling that randomly washes over you. Grace is a choice. And the beautiful thing is, every single day, every single hour, you get to choose it again. As we close out this series on Walk in Grace series, here's the absolute truth I want you to carry with you this week. You do not have to earn grace. You do not have to deserve grace. You do not have to qualify for it. You just have to open your hands and receive it. Grace is God's looking right at you and saying, I know you, I see you, I love you, and come as you are. So today, choose grace. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, choose grace. And when you inevitably fail and stumble on that Thursday afternoon, choose grace again. Because grace is not for the perfect. Grace is for the real. Grace is for the tired. Grace is for human. And grace, most importantly, is for you. No, again, thank you so much for joining me on this journey over the last 3 episodes. If this series has helped you drop the heavy baggage you have been carrying, share it with a friend, send them a text. You never know who is sitting in the driveway right now, completely exhausted, waiting for a lifeline. Now stay present, stay alive. I'll catch you in our next series on JengaPod. Having said so, this is Godwin, and thank you so much for tuning in. Until then, see you in our next series.